Just wanted to do a little point of view driving review of the GT350R. I've had a 2016 GT350 and now the 2020 GT350R. I don't have both anymore, but just want to talk about how well this car handles, how it's a special car, and just kind of do a little review. I hope this sound shows up. Flat plane crank, 5.2 liter, 426 horsepower, or excuse me, 526 horsepower, naturally aspirated. Everything on this car is just stock, the way it was ordered. Has the Magna Ride, the carbon fiber wheels. Right now I'm driving in normal mode. Did an earlier review of this car, but I didn't have the camera mounted in the right way, so it was hard to really show how this car, how it shifts and sounds when you're driving. When you take off, you shift through the gears. This is short shifting. Sounds so good. That's just like 3,500 RPM. I'm still short shifting the car. We got about 400 miles on it, a little over 400 miles. So I want to get some more miles on it before a track day in about a month. So we have some time to get some miles on it, get an oil change in before we go. It's not going to be a racing track day, just the Shelby clubs having a day where you can go out there and drive and put yourself in a group and just drive on the track. So I'm looking forward to that. And I do hope the sound comes through okay for this review. I think that's one of the best parts about this car is just the engine, the Tremec 6-speed transmission, and it makes you rev match. I like that we have to do that. But on the track, I'm sure rev matching would be helpful if you're trying to pull the best track times. So it sounds so good. And this car it's truly a driver's car. Like I said in my previous video, there's faster cars, there's so many cars out there. There's always something faster, but this is just a good all-around car as far as brakes, turning, acceleration. I like that it does a lot of things and does them well. And it's just satisfying to drive. I feel like I'm in control of everything on this car. Never had a car that felt so just you think about turning in it and it turns. I love that. In my 2016 I did have a few rattles up in the cowl and shifter in different places, and in this 2020 I have to admit I have not noticed anything. I have not noticed any problems whatsoever, any rattles yet, but the mileage is low, so maybe that'll surface later. But right away in my other car I did notice some rattles that up in the dash, especially the left hand side. That Auto Fanatic on YouTube, he offers a fix for that, which I was going to apply to my 16, but I ended up selling it, so I didn't worry about it. And I sold it because I got an allocation for this. So my intent was to get an R if I could find something that was a reasonable buy, and I found something new from the dealer, so this is what I picked up. I'm going to drive on the straight highway here for a little bit, and I'll tune back in when we get to a road with a few more twisties. Going to be going out towards Pacific City on a road that I like, where there's some twisty roads that we can enjoy the handling of this car. I know I talked about this in a previous video, but you don't want to rev this car out till it's broke in to get around 1,000 miles on it. You don't want to take it up to 88,250 RPM. You want to get it broke in. And then you also want to make sure the oil temp's up to around 180, 200. So I always watch this, because your coolant temperature will get up to temperature before your engine oil, and we want our engine oil temp up. And I hope that sound shows up, that you can hear it. You know, when you're rolling through the gears, it sounds so good. You can almost hear this engine as it starts to move air. So here we're in 6th gear, you don't hear anything. And I'm in sport mode with the exhaust, so I have the exhaust opened up. So when I shift down to 5th, you can hear that motor starting to move some air, and you hear that exhaust. Or even drop down to 4th. Now it's really moving a little more air, around 4,000 RPM. It just sounds so good. But then in 6th, the baffles do close, and it's very quiet, so not much to hear there. And this is a nice car just to drive along the highway. I'm comfortable right now. I have it in normal mode, so the suspension's pretty soft. I wouldn't say it's a harsh ride, but the roads are pretty good here. It's a little harsher than like a 5.0 GT. I think mainly because of the wheels and tires, but maybe harsh isn't the right word. It's just a little firmer, but not so firm that I don't enjoy it. I'm not as young as I used to be, and my back doesn't like jarring anymore. So, you know, for example, my wife's Focus RS, I find that car to be a little oversprung and a little jarring. And while I love the performance of it, unless she wants to drive it, I don't choose to drive it because it's just jarring. It's actually, consider that car a little jarring. Great car, but the suspension isn't quite sorted. This car isn't jarring. It might be firm if you put it in track mode or sport mode, but I've never felt it was jarring or oversprung or anything. So we got all good to drive. We'll find some twisties up here in a little bit. Getting ready to hit some of the twisties here on this road going out to the coast here in Oregon. And to me, that's where this car shines, is when you get to shift, accelerate, brake, rev match. I love that kind of stuff. It's just nice it's engaging to have a car that you actually drive. So I just wanted to, highlight that in this video. It's one of the main things. I like that the chassis are numbered in this car, in the regular GT350. You got a little rev match there. Rev match again. And you come into this corner and it just settles into the corner, and there's no lean. You point the car out of the corner, get on the gas, and so satisfying. And that's just we're only going like 4,000 RPM on those shifts. Here come some motorcycles. Those are so much fun. Couple of 890 Adventure R's, good bikes. And that's a good point. Motorcycles, I do like motorcycles a lot. And to me, this is almost as engaging as an experience as you can get in a car. It's kind of like a motorcycle in terms of just the feeling you get when you drive the car. That was so good on this twisty road. I can't think of anything better to be in. There's lots of nice cars, but this is what I like being in. Rev match, end of the corner, so satisfying. Rev match there. Rev connected to a dislike, so we'll talk about those. But 5 likes are, of course, the easy one is the engine, the 5.2 liter flat plane crank motor. It just sounds so good to come out of a corner and roll through a few gears. It's naturally aspirated, so its power is very linear once you get above 3,500 RPM or so. So that's definitely a like. I like that it's unique to the Voodoo engine is unique to the GT350. That's a nice Shelby hallmark that they usually do with the Shelbys. I like that it's paired to a manual transmission only. Get to a rev match and drive the car. It's very engaging. Another like would be the suspension. The Magnerite suspension is a real plus on this car. You just can't even tell that the car is tilting. And I'm sure it is, but you just can't feel it. So Magnerite is a plus. It's adjustable. You can go through the different settings of normal, sport, track, so I like that. Another like is the Brembo brakes. I think the calipers, or excuse me, the rotors are made by Ford, but they're very good. I mean, they have good bite. Even when I did track days with Ford Performance with the GT350, I never felt them fade out. So they were great. There's a sharp corner, this thing just sticks. The tires, they work, the Michelin tires work really well on this. They just stick. So I do like the tires. I like the carbon fiber tires. There's another like, or excuse me, wheels. But that's connected to a dislike that it does make me nervous that if I hit a pothole, I mean, this road isn't perfect, and if I'm not on point and I hit a pothole, if I hurt a toggle wheel, that's going to be expensive. So I like that the carbon fiber wheels are a like, but they're also a dislike. Another like and dislike would be the gauge cluster is kind of just analog, or just gauges, and I like that. But at the same time, the GT, the regular GT50 has a nice, and GT500 have these modern digital gauges, which are pretty cool. But for this car, I think the old school manual transmission, I think it all kind of works together. Flat plane crank, I think it does work for this car. So I like it, but at the same time, I dislike it. I wouldn't mind the modern gauges. But it would never keep me from buying the car, that's for sure, because I buy this for the driving experience, the way it sticks to these corners. Another like and dislike, I like the spoiler in the back, but it does kind of impede the view out the back for looking at traffic. But again, this is a purpose-built car, so you have to kind of expect that, I guess. Another like is how this car corners. It corners like you were on rails. I mean, I can come up to this corner, give a little rev match, and in we go. I'm not even close to the limits of the car. And I love that it handles that way. So definitely a like is how it corners. We talked about cornering, steering, braking. I like the Recaro seats. They're comfortable for me. I'm around 5'7" and 180 pounds. I'm not a big guy, but I'm not a small guy either, so I'm just kind of medium built, I suppose. They do fit me snugly around the trunk in the back. I like that we rev match this car. Very satisfying. The Tremec transmission, I like that. Maybe a dislike though, it in, and out you go. Such a great car. About 4,500 RPM. Such an angry motor. A little rougher. So maybe a dislike would be the 5.2 is a little rougher. Not as smooth as a 5-liter, but for this car, again, that's kind of a like too, that it's rough and growly and angry. Roll down the window. Hear that angry motor. I'm running it in sport mode for the exhaust because I always like to hear this exhaust. So those are kind of some likes and dislikes, and I like the looks of the car. I'll catch something from the outside of the car a little later, but I like the looks of it. But I do kind of wish the transmission knob had a round knob. I'm not changing it out because this is what came with the car. I think it looks good. The red highlights, accents match the red calipers and red interior and red car that this is, so I'm leaving it, but I kind of like the feel of a round knob. So those are kind of some of my likes and dislikes of the GT350R. Oh, just a little addendum. I did think of one dislike of this car. Is it's so low. I don't have lowering springs or anything. It's just the way it came from the factory. But you know, the front spoiler to get more down chin, lower ground graphics have a very low chin splitter in the front, and it sticks out a little bit. And if you are not careful, you can bend that thing when you pull in or out of a driveway or something. Or you have to be careful with curbs. It will not slide over a curb. I haven't bent mine yet, but I've certainly come close a few times. So just something to be aware of. But again, for this car, that's also a like because it gives it the look that it should have. It's functional. So for this car, it looks the part. So it's maybe a dislike as far as functionally. You have to watch that splitter. Like a 5.0 splitter will generally fit over a small curving, but this one, it will not. And you know, that's just something to look at, to be careful of. And the last thing is, when you slip this car into 6th gear, the exhaust baffles close, it goes quiet. Kind of wish they'd stay open. So here I'm shifting down 4th. Now they're back open again. In 5th, they stay open. That makes sense. 6 gears and the gear you use except for on the highway to get from point A to point B, so they probably figure you might as well have it be quiet so you're not annoying people. And this car is so great, these long sweeping corners. Just holds the road, holds the road, holds the road. Shifting this car once again. I'm not revving it out today. We're only doing 4,000 RPM or so. It's about 4,800 RPM. And the car just loves it. It wants to go. Really do have to use discipline driving this car because the only place you can really use it to its full potential is on the track. It's such a satisfying driving experience. this car, added the carbon fiber package. It's race red. It has the tech package. Recaro seats. Wanted those because it's a race car, or a track oriented car, so I thought it made sense to have that. And the rev matching is so good on this car. So I didn't need to shift there, but I did just because it was fun. Driving a one of my motorcycles that I like to drive is a Yamaha MT-09 with an inline triple, like a Triumph speed triple. Those motors kind of and I know they're different bikes, but there's something about those inline triples, the way they rev and make torque. It kind of reminds me of that, the way it likes to just rev out. Triple motors, they love to rev. And a GT350, it just begs to rev. It just wants to rev. And that's what it wants to do. Trucks and other things on this road, so it's really not a great road to go overly fast down. Another thing people talk about is the GT350 not having a lot of torque, and I suppose there's truth to that. You do have to get up to around 3,500 RPM, 3,000, 3,500 RPM before it comes alive. So here's 3,400, and if I get on the gas, it pulls really well. But at the same time, it's not a big, 427, 6-liter motor or anything. This is a naturally aspirated motor, 5.2 liters. So it, for the liters that it is, it makes, in my opinion, great torque, over 400 foot-pounds. But yeah, it's not a big block torquey motor, but I don't mind that because once again, this is a driver's car, and excuse me, I want to be able to drive it. I want to find the right gear to make it perform, and maybe it goes back to me driving motorcycles. You have to find the right gear to make your bike perform, and I enjoy that. And when you select the right gears, rev it out to the right RPM, this car, it performs great. There's no, in my opinion, it's not a problem. So I don't see that as a negative. And sure, you put boost on this or a supercharger, it'll make more torque. But I like that it's naturally aspirated, and I have to find the right gear, rev match, find the right gear to make it do what I want it to do. Brake, come into the corner, I've got the right gear. Then come out of that corner, and it'll just take off. Come into the next corner, brake, I'm in the right gear, around 3,000 RPM. Pulls out no problem. And the gears are spaced to where when you're revving out each gear, you end up in the power band. So, it's not a negative to me. But yeah, if you're cruising around, like if I'm in 6th gear or 5th gear, and right now I'm at 2,500 RPM and I stab the throttle, not going to do a whole lot because that's not where this makes power. And a lot of, you know, motorcycles are that way. Performance bikes, you got to get in the, you know, you have to drive it. You have to know how to drive. So I don't mind that. And to me, there's plenty of usable torque where it should be making torque and horsepower. So again, here's 3,000 RPM. I can accelerate. Now, let's say you wanted more. That was 4th gear. I can drop this to 3rd, 4,000 RPM. It pulls out of that like just very briskly. So I don't know. I don't mind that. I don't see a problem. But just worth talking about the torque curve on this motor. But once you get above 3,500 RPM, 3,200 RPM, it seems to be very linear to me. There I am shifting just so I can rev match. So there's 3,200 RPM, pulls up to 4,500 very briskly. And I am short shifting this car. And I love this car. I think it's great. Ford did a great job. Braking, rev matching. Such a good car. It sticks. Not even close to the limits of this car. Like when you let off the throttle, some of the crackles. Has a resonator delete, so it's a little more crackly and raspy, which I don't mind. But I didn't think the regular GT350R sounded bad by any means. So they're both great cars. I would gladly have either one. I just happened to be able to get a hold of an R, so that's what I grabbed. But I was very happy with my regular GT350 in every way. Just great cars. You know, really the 5.0s, when we went to the Ford Performance track days, sometimes the instructor cars would be a 5.0 with a performance pack, if you'd call it performance pack 2. It basically had springs, exhaust, and sway bar upgrades. And man, those cars, the instructors, of course, they're instructors, man, they did great with the 5.0. So 5.0, it's such a capable car. And I love the 5.0 Coyote motor. I've talked about that before. That is just a terrific car. Oh, these corners are so good. The only bummer is when you get behind traffic and you can't really enjoy these corners. But that's the way it is. On a highway, we're not on a track, so you gotta be safe. You know, respect everybody else on the highway. We're all out here together, so but yeah, that's just some thoughts on GT350R. Hope that helps any of you who are wondering about the car, the GT350 or the R. Like I said, I've had both, and I enjoyed them both very much. I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had trouble with either of them, but I think my other car I had around 6,000 miles on it. And this car, you know, like I said, I have less than 1,000 miles on it so far. And it's not that I don't drive these cars because I don't like them. I just, like probably most of us, I'm busy with work, and I have 3 girls and a wife and a nice family, so it's there's only so much time in the day to drive aside from work and family and other hobbies that we all enjoy. So, but as far as for me, I enjoy cars. I enjoy driving cars and doing maintenance on them and minor upgrades. And the GT350, in my opinion, is such a satisfying section of this road. Just get the downshift, take the car in. It just pops right out of the corner. This is a single lane bridge, so I need to watch it. It's clear. It's only 5,000 RPM. The car just loves to stick to the road. You get off the gas to the brakes and it just sticks. Very confidence inspiring. I'm not an expert driver, but this car makes me better than I am, that's for sure. But even that, be that as it may, I don't want to find the limits of this car. Just a little bit of thought on this car. If you're going to boost it or put a supercharger on it or something like that, you're probably better off with a 5-liter. Maybe my take on that. Looks like he's waiting. These motors are so high-strung from the factory. I don't know. I mean, I know that people put turbos and boosts. I think that's great. You know, for their cars. I love watching that stuff, and it's pretty awesome. But this motor is high-strung already, and so I feel like if you do too much to it, and I want to say it becomes unreliable, but I worry about it. I'll put it that way. And I plan on owning this car for many years. I enjoy it. I have no plans to sell it, and so for me, keeping it stock is probably what I'll do. I mean, it's definitely what I'll do, but I don't see anything wrong if, hey, you have a car and you want to do so. This is a single leg bridge, so you got to watch these because they're kind of a blind corner until you get to them. Yep, looks good. It's just both of those gears, so good, so satisfying. And I love that when you go to the brakes, they just bite. Little crackles in the exhaust when you let off. And they're not annoying crackles, they're just here and there. Some cars, the popping and crackling is actually annoying, but with this I feel like it's just right. This is a bumpy road, so I don't know what my camera's doing, but if it's bumping around a lot, yeah, this is a bumpy road. It's a coastal highway, and it's bumpy. I mean, I'm not getting jostled as far as jarred, but it's a bumpy road, so let's just call it the way it is here. Hugging the road once again. In third gear, it's such a good gear for this car. And it just sticks. Yeah, but this engine, I feel like this motor left OEM is pretty reliable. There have been cases where people had the oil filter spin off onto 16s before they changed to a cartridge style. I haven't heard of the cartridge style doing that. And with the proper steps, I don't feel like the OEM filter, the 16 canister filter, came off either. But it had to be torqued properly. Just a beautiful day. See that little bit of coastal fog, high clouds there. But just a gorgeous day to be out in this car. Here we are rolling through some of the corners here. a vibration in the interior of this car yet, so I feel like in 2020 they had that sorted. I'm sure before that too. I just know for this car, I don't have any vibrations at any RPM, so I don't know. They did a great job of fixing any of those miscellaneous rattles. My 16 had a few minor ones, but you know, all that could be fixed. But this one I haven't noticed any. So it feels very tight, and even in the interior. Speaking of which, some people talk about the interior. Saying that, you know, maybe they didn't like how plain it is, but I like it for this car. I think the money went into the performance of the drivetrain, the motor, and the car, the brakes, and I'm happy with that being where the money was spent. Single lane bridge here. Seats. I like that it's relatively plain and functional. I didn't buy this car for a fancy interior. I wanted a driver's car, and I feel like that's what I got. And the interior the gauges are functional. Everything's simple. We have oil pressure, oil temperature, tach, speed, fuel, and you can change out some of put digital information to get differential, tranny temp, oil temp, cylinder head temp, bunch of different temperatures. So it's got plenty of for a track car, a track focused car. It has, in my opinion, everything you would need to for this car to be very functional. I'm trying to catch mainly this car in corners because that's what I like, where I like to drive it. Shifting the car, but that's because we're still breaking it in. There's single lane bridge. This car makes corners feel straight. I tip into a corner and I'm turning the wheel and there's no lean. It just almost straightens the corner somehow. And that's what I wanted to do today, was just to get you out on the twisty road in the GT350, just so you could get an idea of what it felt like to downshift, rev match, do it yourself. I drove a 5.0 recently where it auto rev matched, auto blip the throttle. I thought that was really cool, and I like that for the GT5.0, but for this car, I like that I have to do it. I know I keep saying that, but I like that you have to drive it. And this car isn't bad in a straight line. Up to speed plenty fast. But is it a drag car? I wouldn't consider it a drag car. I know you can, like I was talking about before, boost it, supercharge it, do different things. And it's not a slouch, but I feel like this car is more of a dedicated track car. You can get it through a corner, come out of the corner, get on the gas, and it accelerates briskly. And just handles well. Kind of like Carroll Shelby said, a car should stop, start, turn right, and turn left. And I agree with that. I don't really, not that interested in a car that goes fast in a straight line but doesn't turn or handle that well or brake that well. I like a car that little bit. Yeah, this is a great section. Straightening the corners. That was just me shifting because I wanted to shift. Yeah, third gear just does it all in this car. Go down to 35, 40 miles per hour and just accelerate right out of a corner. Alright, well that was fun. Coming up on some traffic, so won't make you guys watch that, but thanks for going through some twisties with me. So much fun to rev match, brake, rev match again, shift, accelerate, brake, just, I don't know, feels like reminds me of driving my motorcycles, I guess. I love that. Gives you that driver's experience of really driving something instead of just being a passive, numb participant. I feel very connected to the car, the steering, the braking, the drivetrain. It just all feels good. Everything feels just the way it should be. The steering is, I can feel like I can tell what's going on with the car. It isn't numb. It's very responsive and lively. Good handling car. I feel like the GT350 truly is a sports car and not so much a muscle car, but more of a crossing over into that sports car category. Oh, I do have one dislike of the GT350. It's such a nice performing car that when you do get behind traffic on a curvy road and they're going really slow, it's torture. You just have to endure it. I don't want to be one of those Mustang drivers that people talk about, so I try to back off and just chill out when it happens, but I'll just tell you, it's painful. It's painful to be in a car that can handle so good on a twisty road like this, and you just gotta, you know, putter along. So there's a dislike right there, is when you get behind a lot of slow traffic on a nice road, you're in this car, it takes a lot of self-control just to take a deep breath and relax and just you know, chill out a little bit, because the car wants to do so much fun to downshift, rev match, and go. But obviously right now that's not what's going to happen. We're on a twisty road, there's no place to pass, and nothing's good going to come out of me tailgating the person in front of me or trying to pass. So you just have to relax and just enjoy the car for what it is when you're going slow too.